Welcome adventurers, so you want to create a bard? Well, okay, let's give it a shot. So first things first, just to make this interesting, I'll first start with quick build guide, then go to background, race, and finally class, instead of what is described in the book. So here's the thing, bard is a musician pretty much. He's an entertainer, or she's an entertainer really, with high charisma. But here's the thing, charisma doesn't necessarily mean that you are attractive or good looking. It might as well just mean that you are well spoken, or even simply weird. That is, weird to others. Well, good example would be like a draw metal music loving bard or something like that. While people in the world of D&D are used to some more or less jaunty tunes, you are there just rocking it away in a way. And so on and so forth. That could count as charisma as well. But anyways, let's take a look at Bard's Quick Build Guide. You can make a Bard quickly by following these suggestions. First, Charisma should be your highest ability score, followed by Dexterity. Second, choose Entertainer background. And finally, you get the list of spells that are suggested, but to be honest, I recommend just choosing them on your own. Alright, next, as described, we have to take Entertainer background, so let's take a look at that. Mind you, I'm taking Entertainer background because Quick Build Guide suggests it. As a player, it's up to you to choose really what background your character will have. Now, as you move on to entertainer background, you really have to choose what type of entertainer you will be. You can be a poet, singer, actor, and so on and so forth. There's a D10 table, so if you really want to, you can, instead of choosing, you can roll for it. But what interests us here is really not the roleplay aspect, but the functional parts for your character, like skill proficiencies, where you gain acrobatics and performance, tool proficiencies, where you gain disguise kit and one type of musical instrument, and finally, as equipment, you gain a musical instrument, one of your choice, the favor of an admirer, love letter, lock of hair, or trinket, something like that, a costume, and belt pouch containing 15 gold pieces. And as a last thing, you gain a feature from this background, by a popular demand. You can always find a place to perform, usually in an inn or a tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theater, or even at a noble's court. At such place you receive free lodging and food of a modest or comfortable standard, depending on quality of establishment, as long as you perform each night. In addition, your performance makes you something of a local figure. When strangers recognize you in the town where you have performed, they typically take liking to you. So basically, this will allow you to live for free and dine for free. If there's a place to perform in, of course. Now, I'll leave personality traits and rest of the stuff empty. Only thing I will take probably is the creative ideal, making my character sort of a chaotic. But again, it's completely up to you to choose which one you will take. So let's say my bard will be chaotic good, so he doesn't go around just stealing stuff or killing even someone. Alright, now that background's written in, I will take a look at races. Which race would actually fit well with a bard class, or rather the image of a bard? Well, since bard is not really a combatant, it's probably be a race that doesn't perform that well on battlefield in comparison to the rest of them, so I'd say either halfling or gnome. Yeah, let's go with halfling, and I'll call my character Eldon. Alright, let's take a look at halfling racial traits, and starting with ability score increase, for halflings that will be dexterity +2, then speed is 25 feet, and then we got a couple of features for our character. And starting with lucky, when you roll a 1 on attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. Then moving on, we have brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened, and I gotta say that this is quite useful when you're fighting against some sort of spectral monsters like ghosts and so on and so forth, because most of them usually have this frighten ability. And last feature, you gain halfling nimbleness. You can move through the space of any creature that is of size larger than yours. Mind you that in combat you can move through your friendly creatures' spaces, but not your enemies. Alright, as the last thing we have languages. You can speak, read, and write Common and Halfling. And after that you have to choose one of two sub-races for Halflings, either Lightfoot or Stout. Well, since this bard won't be much of a fighter, I'll take Lightfoot. So additionally I gain Charisma score increase +1, and another feature, naturally stealthy. You can attempt to hide even when you're obscured by a creature that is at least one size larger than you. Also, I forgot to mention that halflings, just like gnomes and dwarves, are small size. So any medium size or bigger you can hide behind. But that's about it on racial features. Now, before I go into class features and stuff, I will roll my ability scores. For this I used 4d6 and dropped the lowest. So I got 15, 16, 9, 13, 9 and 11. Well, since my two highest scores are 15 and 16, the smartest idea is to have a round number for your score. So 16 goes for my dexterity and 15 goes for my charisma. In total I have 16 charisma and 18 dexterity. That is counting in my racial features. Now I have two 9s as my lowest scores. One will definitely go for strength, as my character is not really that, well, strong. And the other one could go for intelligence, as he's just a bard. I'll put 13 for my constitution and 11 for my wisdom, as my bard will be more wise than smart. Alright, so now that that's done, let's get into the class itself. What is it about? So, as it is described, bard often takes the role in party to be the face, or the person that talks with everyone, as bard's primary skill is charisma. But when it comes to combat, bard takes the role of the inspiring musician, or rather the person that gives you buffs. Oftentimes. As my friend said, if your party is dying, you're a bad bard. But to be honest, well, you know, you have option of having a really bad DM or just a mean DM, so there's that also. Essentially, bard is a spellcaster that really, instead of using wand, uses his instrument to charm or just do his magic stuff. But before we go into all the features and skills of the class, let's just write down all the missing information like hit points. And first thing we write in is hit die, which is 1d8. On the first level, of course, you will only have one hit die. Then your health on first level will be 8 plus your constitution modifier. In this case, my modifier is +1. And in total, my health is 9. And for any other next level I gain, I will add either 5 or choose to roll 1d8 and add my constitution modifier to either of them, adding a result to my max hit points. Alright, moving on, we have proficiencies. Armor wise, bards are proficient only with light armor. When it comes to weapons, you'll be proficient with simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers and short swords. Then for tool proficiency, you can choose any 3 musical instruments. So combining that with your entertainer background, in total you can play 4 different types of instruments. Then moving on, saving throws for bard class is dexterity and charisma. And finally skills, you can choose any 3 to be proficient in. So just to remind you, don't pick the same skills you gain from your background because you won't really double your proficiency. Alright, and as the last part of this little section we have equipment. Again, you can buy it yourself, but I recommend for first time players really to choose whatever is suggested here. So first I have to choose either rapier or longsword or any other simple weapon. Then diplomat's pack or entertainer's pack. And finally a lute or any other musical instrument. Finally I gain leather armor and a dagger. Well, since this character has actually pretty high dexterity, I'll choose rapier and then entertainer's pack. And as for musical instrument, I'll probably choose the same old lute. Oh, and information about packs you can find on page 151. Now, as for rapier, I chose this weapon because it gains benefit, if you choose so, from dexterity instead of strength. And so attack bonus for this weapon will be my proficiency plus my dexterity modifier, since this character is proficient with rapiers. And as for damage, it's 1d8 plus my dexterity modifier, which would be 4. Then the other weapon I gained was a dagger. Now, daggers can be used in 2 ways, as a ranged weapon or as a melee weapon. When I will be using my dagger as melee weapon, I will have to take in count my strength modifier, but when I use it as ranged weapon, dexterity comes in play. And of course damage for this weapon is 1d6, and the damage type is slashing. Alright, then finally we can move on to the bard's table. Mind you that I'm making only level 1 character, so in the table you can see the proficiency bonuses +2, and I gained spellcasting and bardic inspiration as my skills. Now I consider you, my dear viewer, to be a first time player, or at least second time, or you know, a noob. Even though spellcasting spellcasting in 5th edition is quite easy to understand. It's still something you have to learn, and well, I'll try to do my best to explain at least the principles of it. But before we go into that, I'll explain Bardic Inspiration. Well, this skill basically is the primary mode of supporting your teammates in battle, or with any other situation really. So, as it is written, you can inspire others through stirring words of music. To do so, you use a bonus action on your turn to choose a creature other than yourself within 60 feet of you, who also can hear you. That creature gains 1 Bardic Inspiration die, a d6. Once within next 10 minutes, the creature can roll the die and add the number rolled to the ability check, attack roll, or saving throw it makes. The creature can wait until it rolls d20 before deciding to use Bardic Inspiration die, but before DM says whether or not the roll succeeds or fails. Once Bardic Inspiration die is rolled, it's lost. A creature can have only 1 Bardic Inspiration die at a time. You, as a bard, can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier. For me, that would be 3. Then you regain all your expended uses once you finish the long rest, and then Bardic Inspiration die increases according to different levels. Also, for this info, you can check the Bard's table. Alright, so basically in gaming terms, this is a buff, allowing you to succeed on a skill that you otherwise would probably not succeed. Alright, as the last thing left was of course the spellcasting. At this point I highly suggest just reading through it, but I'll try to do my best to explain it as fast as possible. So first things first, your spellcasting ability for Bard is Charisma. Then your spell save DC is 8 plus your proficiency plus your charisma. In my case, it's 13 in total. And spell attack modifier is my proficiency and charisma modifier, so that's 5. Alright, so spell save DC and spell attack modifier. What do they mean? See, some spells you don't have to roll d20 to see if you hit it. You just simply have to tell your DM that if the creature avoids this DC, he receives less damage or no damage or something like that. But if any spell has in its description written that you have to make a ranged spell attack or melee spell attack, you have to roll d20 and add your spell attack modifier, and then see whether or not you hit the target. When it comes to spellcasting, Bard is quite interesting because instead of like preparing spells each morning to, utilize every time, Bard knows a set amount of spells, and when he levels up, you can change only 1 spell. See, those are spells you can cast them, but amount of spells you can cast are determined by your spell slots. And once you cast a spell, unless it's a cantrip, you have to expend 1 kind of a slot. Let's for example say you have level 1 spell you want to use, but you have expanded all your level 1 slots. You can still cast that spell as higher level spell. And actually most spells gain bonuses when you cast them as higher level. And of course you can't cast spells of higher level than your spell slot. Oh, and you can cast cantrips as much as you want. They do not use any spell slots. But anyways, take a look at Bard's table to see how many spell slots you have and how many spells you know at which level. And as a last thing, I'll take a look at Bard's spells and give you a couple of suggestions, but really I leave it up to you to choose which spells you really want for your character to have. So on level 1 I know 2 cantrips and I have 2 spell slots of first level, and to that I know 4 spells. So those 4 spells should be level 1, otherwise I wouldn't be able to cast them. Alright, so Bard's cantrips. To be honest, I would say True Strike probably is a good buff, and Vicious Mockery is also useful. Although Light can be useful, as well as Dancing Lights. From first level I'd say Cure Wounds or Healing Word are pretty good heals. Then Sleep or Charm Person could be useful in many different ways. And Thunderstrike as a good nuke, as they say. But again, it's up to you to choose which spells you're gonna be using. So there you go. I hope I helped you make your first Bard, and at least I clarified a couple of things. And if you're unclear on any part or how to fill your character sheet, go check out my character creation series.